Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend in the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
I burned it all, but bridges, nothing burns quite like a bridge does. Happy November. Whatever you do this month, don't feed the trolls or the feds. Don't let them feed you. Don't take the bait. Don't play with fire, but burn whatever bridges you need to burn.
Significant political story breaking late last night. The WikiLeaks dump on Hillary Clinton's Wall Street speeches. Moments ago, WikiLeaks has tweeted, quote, "We have published 1% of the Podesta emails so far. Additional publications will proceed throughout the election period," end quote.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us now, CN.
I'm going to say, Mr. Assange, I'm now outside 3. How you doing?
Where are you guys from?
Where are we from? We're from the U.S.
But who are you?
As for a channel called Showtime. Who are you with?
I'm from in there.
Well, in there, there's a lot of stuff in there.
There is, yeah.
Which part of in there?
Well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, it does if you want answers from us. You gave us some answers.
Well, I don't particularly need answers from you. I'm just wondering if there's something in particular you're...
We've been eager doing a show that's airing tomorrow night, or Sunday night rather, on WikiLeaks role in the American election.
You want to walk over there a minute?
Sure. there anything I could do? Could I handwrite a question for him? I mean, I'd love to literally just get him to answer one question. It would only take maybe 30 seconds. Forget the fucking pizza. All right, what should the question be?
It's like a fine line. You want something he will answer.
Yes,
No,
that's the thing.
but-
What aspect of the Podesta emails do you think the U.S. media has underreported? Okay.
All three.
Even if you just write a short answer.
We got an answer.
My question was, what aspect of the Podesta emails do you think the U.S. media has underreported? One word. Everything.
February 22nd, 2015, John Podesta, President Obama's former counselor to the president, wrote an email to Robbie Mook, who 6 weeks later would become Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Podesta writes, "I'm definitely for making an example of a suspected leaker, whether or not we have any real basis for it." Mook responds, "I agree and I would love an example being made." The question is, was this the prevailing attitude that, 18 months later, made Seth Rich their latest example to other leakers?
Yahoo investigative reporter Michael Isikoff, you know, the one who broke that story, arguably which started Russiagate hysteria in the media, gave an extensive interview this week in which he disputes many of the scandal's allegations. RT's Sarah Montez de Oca is joining me with all of the detail. Okay, so Sarah, what can you tell me about what's going on right now with Isikoff?
Scotty, it looks like Michael Isikoff is now expressing doubts about the way that his coverage of the Trump dossier started Russiagate. Now, is an exclusive interview with Mediaite. Isikoff, one of the first journalists to report on the allegations of the so-called Trump dossier, made a surprising claim.
When you actually get into the details of the Steele dossier, the specific allegations, we have not seen the evidence to support them. And in fact, there's good grounds to think that some of the more sensational allegations will never be proven and are likely false.
The president took to Twitter this morning to thank Isikoff for his honesty and wrote, "What this means is that the FISA warrants and the whole Russian witch hunt is a fraud and a hoax which should be ended immediately." In September of 2016, Isikoff wrote an article for Yahoo News laying out some of the original stories that were later used in Steele's dossier. Now, the explosive report was written by former British spy Christopher Steele, who was hired by Fusion GPS, which was a firm under the contract with the DNC and the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. Now, the FBI cited Steele's dossier in their Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Application, or FISA application, for warrants to spy on Trump's foreign policy advisor, Carter Page, among other members of the Trump campaign.
Early morning hours of July 10th, 2016, a young staffer for the Democratic National Committee was murdered as he walked home from a bar. Without any real evidence, Seth Rich's death became a focal point for efforts to debunk the story that Russia hacked the DNC to help Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. Today's guest, however, tells us that the conspiracy theories around Seth Rich's murder have a remarkable origin: Russian intelligence. He's Michael Isikoff this week on Story in the Public Square. Plus this week, we're joined by legendary investigative journalist Michael Isikoff. Over a remarkable career, he's unpacked the stories told to take the United States to war in Iraq. He's exposed presidential wrongdoing, and now as chief investigative correspondent for Yahoo News, he's exposing the conspiracy theories around Seth Rich's murder in a new podcast called Conspiracyland. Mike, thank you so much for being with us.
Great to be with you.
So for anybody out there who doesn't know who Seth Rich was, who was Seth Rich?
Seth Rich was a 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer living in Washington in the summer of 2016 during the presidential election, working on voter protection for the DNC. One late night in July of that year, he's walking home from his favorite bar very late at night, early Sunday morning, and he is gunned down in what police quickly concluded was a botched robbery. There had been a rash of robberies in his neighborhood, about 30 blocks north of the Capitol that summer. You know, it was a tragic event. The police were unable to identify the assailants, but it had all the hallmarks of one of these armed robberies that had been going on. Very soon afterwards, strange conspiracy theories started to pop up on obscure websites and chat rooms suggesting that he had been murdered as part of a political assassination. The suggestion was the Clintons had him murdered because he had information about corruption within the DNC. Within a few weeks, this starts to get promoted by Roger Stone, the president, then candidate Donald Trump's longtime political advisor. And then Julian Assange at WikiLeaks suggests in early August that Seth Rich had been his source for those DNC emails that he unleashed on the eve of the Democratic Convention. Now, there was really nothing to that suggestion. Seth Rich had no access to the DNC emails. He was a junior level staffer. There was no evidence at all that he had any communications with WikiLeaks. But Assange's suggestion in an interview which he first gave to a Dutch TV reporter was a way of deflecting from what we now know where Assange did get those emails from Russian intelligence.
So let's pick that thread up because
yes.
you actually backtracked and traced the origin, the very first point where that Seth Rich murder conspiracy rumor gets started. Where is it and what's the provenance of it?
3 days after his murder, July 13th, 2016, a very obscure website called whatdoesitmean.com that when you look at it, it's pretty clear it's a vehicle for Russian propaganda. First asserts that Rich was murdered by a squad of assassins working for Hillary Clinton.
We interviewed Michael Isikoff of Yahoo News about his story purporting to say that Russia initiated the Seth Rich conspiracy theory, but it was actually debunked by the Washington Post, as we showed him in that interview last week. The Post pointed out that 6 tweets claiming Rich was the leaker of the DNC emails and was killed for it were actually posted within 3 hours of Rich's death. Not 3 days later, on a bizarre website that Isikoff links to Russian intelligence, Isikoff admitted that he never saw a supposed Russian intelligence document that was dated the same day that this website, whatdoesitmean.com, published its story. He merely quoted the former prosecutor of the Rich case, who said that she saw it. So one must be especially skeptical of intelligence agencies whose job description includes arts of deception, and not just of foreign adversaries, but also of the American people, as the Church Committee and other investigations in Congress in the mid-1970s showed us. Even Isikoff later in that story last week chose to use a qualifier, the qualifier purported, to describe what he says the prosecutor was telling him, as he had not seen the actual intelligence document himself and was basically covering his derriere. My contention is that after 30 years in this business, in journalism, and it doesn't really matter who the source is if you've got authentic documents.
In a world where these lies are being spewed, I mean, every time you turned around, Trump was an illegitimate president. You heard this over and over again, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in a position of knowing the truth. Okay, but I didn't go out and do much of that. Am I a Republican? Yes, I am. Am I a conservative? Yes, I am. Am I one of those idiotic Republicans? No. Okay, I mean, I'm not one of those crazed Republicans. What I value is the truth. And that's what I thought I was doing, is helping people, Joel and Mary Rich, get to the truth and get the truth out. That's what I cared about, and that's the only thing I care about. I mean, in Issacar said in his podcast that I had an interest in finding out or something about the murderer. I've never once said I had an interest in finding out who murdered Seth Rich. Never.
You once expressed regret that you actually offered to pay for the private detective for the Rich family. Is that right?
Yeah, I would do it exactly the same. But let me explain to you how that worked. I mean, I'm talking with them, and I said, listen, they kept saying, we don't have any leads. No one from the Washington police, Joey Della Camera and Chief of Police Newsom, have never done anything to help them find out who was murdered or what is going on with the murder, I should say. And I said to them, well, why don't you hire a private detective? And when they said they couldn't afford one, I'm not a rich guy. And I just simply said, I'll pay for it. Never thinking, Joe and Elizabeth, at that moment, they would say, thank you. Like, that's one of those things where you expect them to say, oh, we barely know you. No, thank you. They said, thank you. Well, at that point, I'm not going to turn to them and say, oh, I was just kidding. Okay, like I would have hired, I cared. And we have many communications, Joel and Mary Rich. I mean, they even for Passover sent me a big cheesecake, a thank you. They asked me to call Berkman, this guy Jack Berkman, and ask him to leave them alone. And I did that. I was just helping a family who lost a son in any way that I could. And then all of a sudden, on May the 15th, Rod Wheeler spoke to Joel Rich. And Joel said, gosh, I'm really happy you're coming out with the article. And Rod has this in his notes. Really happy you're coming out with this article. There's a lady at some website that Michelle something can you, Joel Rich said to Rod, can you add her to the story? I'm really excited about this coming out. Then 2 days later, a 180. Joel Rich says, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did this. 2 nights before, he was excited as could be that this article was coming out. Rod Wheeler read the article to him. He was excited. 2 days later, whole different Joel Rich.
Did the Riches ever talk to you about the lawyer from the PR person from the DNC that moved into there? Brad Bauman, right?
Yeah, they asked me, Mr. Rich said to me, Ed, who is Brad Bauman? I said, I have no idea. He said, he showed up one day and said he was assigned to us, and I have no idea who he is. And he said these words, why do I need someone assigned to me? I said, Mr. Rich, I have no idea. Those were his exact words to me.
And what role do you think he played in coaching them what to say, for example?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the times there were emails back and forth that I were supposedly from Aaron or from Joel that I knew they didn't send. I mean, I know one email because Mr. Rich was not very computer literate and he had pasted in things and it just couldn't be him. I'm not trying to pick on older people in computers like Ellen and Joel, but this guy, Brad Bauman, showed up and literally took over communications for them. I'll give you an interesting thing, and this I've never told anybody. At least I might have told one person this. There's a guy named David Weigel at the Washington Post. And I called him up and I said, why aren't you guys writing about this? I'm going to tell you everything. And after I told him this whole thing, he said, we need to run that by Brad. Now, this is a guy at the Washington Post. I said, excuse me? He goes, we need to run everything by Brad before we print it on this story. The Washington Post needed to run it by a DNC public relation person before they could print it.
And what happened?
Nothing ever got printed. Do you know what it's like to be me? Nobody prints anything that proves what happened. No one supports anything. Fox News, isn't writing anything and talking about this at all. And I'm out there just, doing things like this.
So Ed, you're obviously, a lot of people believe you, a lot of people don't believe you. You've got this lawsuit now. What are you hoping this lawsuit might do in terms of discovery? Do you expect some kind of real tangible proof to back up what you're saying?
Okay, so anybody who doesn't believe me, write to me and tell me what they don't believe. I'll prove it to them. That's one thing, because I can't stand it when people are calling me liars. And a lot of these people have motivations to keep this Trump-Vladimir Putin bromance going, okay? I have no interest. I could care less. I just care about the truth. Which lawsuit are you talking about? Because I have about 17 lawsuits.
Okay. Let's say the last one where you name Ellen Ratner. Let's start.
Okay.
Talk about that one.
I am suing people because they deserve to be sued, because they lied about me, and they need to be held accountable. If we don't sue these people and we don't bring them to court, they're going to keep doing the same crap. And they're going to make up stories about me and people like me, and they're going to get away with it because no one's going to hold them accountable. So if the press isn't going to hold people accountable, the legal system's going to. And I'm going to sue these people, and anyone continues to smear me, like some people maybe recently have, they're going to be sued.
Well, what are you hoping to gain from that? Just maybe, I don't know about monetary settlement, but are you hoping material evidence comes out that proves what you're saying?
Well, all the evidence is coming out. Okay? I mean, it's all coming out, and it's being worked on right now. And you'll see real soon, my lawyer, Ty Clevenger, is brilliant. And we know he knows exactly what he's doing and knows exactly how to get things. Plus, there's a lot of stuff that's going to start coming out from the White House. Am I going to get money? I sure hope so. I mean, I've spent in about $800,000 for this crap from this made-up story about me.
Are you going to try to depose Ellen Ratner, get her under oath to answer these questions from your lawyer?
No, I wouldn't do that to Ellen. I wouldn't do that because Ellen is not the villain here. Ellen just didn't want to be involved and she lied. I mean, Ellen's a good person.
Let me ask a question about that. What do you think accounts for, and I am asking you to speculate here, but why did you think people like the Riches and Ellen would have changed their tune so distinctly, even when there is, maybe some evidence, especially in Ellen's case, that she had had a different view previously?
Sure. Ellen didn't know this stuff was out there. And I think it's really interesting. Can I just share with you how that one video clip came about?
Yeah, absolutely. We've shown the video, so please discuss it. Yeah.
So it's the strangest thing. I got tagged in a tweet, and it said fast forward to 1 hour and 2 minutes. And I did. And there was what you now see. So the man, we connected, and I thanked him, for sending that to me. He said, let me tell you what happened here. He's 71 years old. He lives in Turkey. And he said he couldn't sleep because he couldn't get Ellen Ratner off his mind. Because ever since something came out in the lawsuit, he couldn't get Ellen Ratner off his mind. So he went on YouTube and wanted to know more about her. And then looked at clips that were near the election, and he watched the whole hour. And then at that 1 hour and 2 minute mark is when Ellen Ratner said what she said. And then he sent that to me.
I know I hate these media people. They're the worst, awful, awful. But don't get hung up on it, because it doesn't have that much of an effect. And they did report the emails, Wikipedia. They went after Hillary.
WikiLeaks.
Yeah, excuse me.
By the way, just FYI,
I got to take a WikiLeaks.
I spent 3 hours with Julian Assange on Saturday at the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Listen to this. Go ahead.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
But one of the things he did say is that the leaks were not from the Russians. They were an internal source from the Hillary campaign, or from somebody that knew Hillary, an enemy. He does not think they're from Russians. And he said Russia got credit for something WikiLeaks should have gotten credit for.
Wow.
For all Folk and Flick's admiration for Hirsch, the journalist's comments in the phone call troubled him.
I don't think it's how you or I approach reporting. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that you're dangling something in front of somebody that's not true, particularly with specificity.
Hirsch declined to be interviewed on Yahoo News' Conspiracy Land to discuss his phone call with Butowski. But he emphasized to us that he never published anything about the supposed FBI report because he never had any corroboration that such a document actually existed. More importantly, in a previously unreported exchange a few months later, he told Butowski the same thing. "Ed, you have a lousy memory," he wrote in an email before he knew the phone call had been secretly taped. "I was not read anything by an FBI friend. I have no first-hand information, and I really wish you would stop telling others information you think that I have and that I have no reason to believe is accurate."
Cy Hirsch absolutely 100% told me he spoke to a person at the FBI. You just listen to the audio tape and draw your own conclusion. And he can say whatever he wants, but all because he says something doesn't mean what I'm saying is not true. What I'm saying is 100% true, and it's recorded. There's not much more I can say about it.
But doesn't it raise a question about what he told you if he doesn't stand behind it? He says what he told you is not true.
No, not at all. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
He's retracted what he said in that tape.
You can't retract something that's on a tape.
Speaking of discrepancies, what about that friend of Butowski's, the one he told the Riches and Hirsch about?
Julian Assange told a friend of mine who met with her that he got the emails from Seth Rich.
Butowski wouldn't talk about his friend with us, but he told others about her, and we tracked her down. It turns out she remembered a totally different version of events.
Hello?
Ellen?
Yes.
Hi, it's Mike Isikoff.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Ellen is Ellen Ratner, a talk radio host and the sister of the late Michael Ratner, who was the U.S. lawyer for WikiLeaks. How do you know Ed Butowski?
So we met in the green room at Fox News Channel, and he's a conservative and I'm a liberal.
Right.
It was just green room chat, and, he knew people I knew from Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I'm from, and that's how we got to know each other.
The Saturday before the 2016 election, Ratner did in fact meet with Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London with other members of her family. One of her brothers wanted to know,
why are you releasing things about Hillary Clinton but not about Donald Trump? And he said, I'm not getting things about Donald Trump, or else we would.
Remember, just a couple of months earlier, Assange had teased the political world by suggesting that Seth Rich might have been the source of the leaked DNC emails. It was a way to deflect from how WikiLeaks really acquired them from a Russian military intelligence online persona called Guccifer 2.0. But Assange had never explicitly asserted a link with Rich, and according to Ratner, the subject was never even discussed when she met with him. Did Seth Rich come up at all?
Not at all. No, I'd never heard of this character.
Really?
No.
This whole comment that Ed Butowski has been telling lots of people that you told him that Assange said that Seth Rich was the source of the DNC emails, that's not true.
It didn't even come up. I am telling you that did not happen.
Not at all.
Not at all.
After we taped this interview, Butowski went public that Ellen Ratner was indeed his supposed source for the Julian Assange conversation about Seth Rich. And he released a couple of text and email messages that he had with Ratner that he claimed back up his story. But we reviewed those messages, and they make no references to Seth Rich whatsoever.
Absolutely, and thanks for giving me the platform to do so. So my involvement, you had mentioned Ellen Ratner and I became friends, and we're good friends and very close relationship. Julian Assange did more than mention to Ellen. Okay, he actually asked Ellen, as you said, to speak to Joel and Mary Rich and give them information with the hope that that information might help them find out who murdered Seth. So Ellen was uncomfortable, wasn't sure if she could do it because her brother was Julian's attorney. Her sister-in-law, Margaret Gardner, I believe that's her name, she was still very close to Ellen, and Ellen just didn't think she could do it. So she asked me, sort of like Mikey, Mikey will try it, right? And Ellen and I had that relationship. So anyone who thinks that that's a weird thing for Ellen to ask me, knowing my relationship with Ellen, it was not whatsoever. But I didn't elect to do it. She asked me to do it. I said no. But I kept seeing on television references that Trump and Vladimir Putin had broken into the DNC server. So what bothered me, and I'll get to it, is that this kept going on, and I finally said, you know what, I'll call these people up. For some reason, this story continues. I get a hold of them, share with them what Ellen told me that Julian told her. There's no question about what Julian told her. Ellen Ratner since has lied to Michael Isikoff from Yahoo News and saying that never came up. That's nonsense, and Ellen is lying. And the reason Ellen's lying is that she doesn't want to be a part of this. But I have emails and text messages going back and forth with Ellen that I haven't shown people yet. Make no mistake about it. Ellen Ratner got that information from Julian Assange.
Let me just jump in and say, what other possible reason would you have? There'd be no connection in your mind for you to be reaching out to Seth's parents.
None at all.
Except that's what Ellen told you.
I mean, here I am in Dallas. It's December 17th. So think about this. I'm a fairly normal person. I'm just going to call up some people, some parents of a dead child, and make up a story. It's absolutely insane. But that's what people have tried to make it look like. So, excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold. So what I did is I got a hold of Joel and Mary Rich, spoke with them, and after that phone conversation, I thought it was the last time I was ever going to talk to these people, unless they came to Dallas for some reason. And then I got a phone call from Cy Hirsch. And Cy Hirsch, for those of you who don't know, is a very famous publisher, a writer, and he shared with me information that he had. And the reason he called me is a friend told him to call me about this, because I had said if I ever learned anything, I would tell Joel and Mary Rich. By the way, all of this is private. None of this is going on in the public eye. Yeah. This is very private conversations that I'm having. Cy Hirsch calls me. I take the phone call because he talked really fast, and I audio recorded it and sent it over to Joel and Mary Rich. And how I got involved a little deeper was after I sent them the information, which everyone can listen to. Just go to Debunking Rod Wheeler's Claims. That's debunkinrodwheelersclaims.net. You can listen to this audio. And Cy Hirsch is sitting there talking all about his information he got from the FBI, which I have learned, by the way, his person we know is McCabe. Okay, we know his contact is McCabe. So
Cy Hirsch's contact is McCabe.
About the kid, and I'll tell you what I know. What I know comes off an FBI report. Don't ask me how you can figure out. I've been around long enough. The kid gets, I don't think he was murdered. I don't think he was murdered because of what he knew. The kid's a nice boy, 27. He was not an IT expert, but he learned stuff. He was a data programmer, but he learned stuff. And so he's living on one street somewhere. He's living in a very rough neighborhood. And in the exact area where he'd been, there've been about 10. I'm sure you know this. There've been about 8 or 9 or 10 violent, robberies. Most of them with somebody brandishing a gun. And the kid's hands, I'm telling you, I'm sure you know it. His hands were marked up. The cops concluded he fought off the people, tried to run, and they shot him twice in the back with a .22, small caliber. And then the kids that did it ran. They got scared, didn't take his wallet. Okay, so what the cops do then, and here's what nobody knows, what I'm telling you. Now, maybe you know something about it. When you have a death like that, DC cops, if you're dead, you generally don't just go. You have to find out what's going on. You have to get to the kid's apartment and see what you can find. If he's dead, you don't need a warrant, but most cops get a warrant because they don't know if the guy has a roommate. You need a warrant, so they get a warrant. I'm just telling you, there is such a thing. They go in the house and they can't do much with his computer, its password. The cops don't know much about it. So the DC cops, they have a cyber unit in DC, and they're more sophisticated. They come and look at it. The idea is maybe he's had a series of exchanges with somebody who says, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker, over a girl, and they can't get in. The cyber guys do a little better, but they can't make sense of it. So they call the FBI cyber unit. The DC unit, the Washington field office, is a hot shit unit. The guy running the Washington field office, he's like a 3-star at an army base. He's already looking for 4. You know what I mean? He's going to go with a top job. There's a cyber unit there that's excellent. What you get in a warrant, the public information you get in a warrant doesn't include, it does not include the affidavit underlying why are you going in, what the reasons are. That's almost never available on. I can tell you that. The existence of a warrant is a public document 99% of the time. So they, on the same warrant, they call in the Fed. The Feds get through, and here's what they find. This is according to the FBI report. What they find is he makes first of all, you have to know some basic facts. One of the basic facts is there's no DNC or Podesta email that exists beyond May 22nd, May 21st, 22nd. It's the last email for either one of those groups. And so what the report says that sometime in late spring, we're talking about June, summer's in June 21st. Late spring would be after, I presume, I don't know. I just say it says late spring, early summer. He makes contact with WikiLeaks. That's in his computer, and he makes contact. Now,
speak to Brad Bauman, please. Speaking. Hi, Mr. Bauman. This is Neil Wolf. I'm with TheLightReports.com. And I just want to call and ask you a couple questions regarding your representation of the Rich family.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask, are you doing this pro bono?
I am.
You are. And may I ask why the timing of, you stepping in? I guess hadn't seen anything until, I guess, about mid-May of you representing them. What was the motive to wait, 10 months since Seth has been murdered to represent them?
Actually, I would look back even further than that. I've been with the family since last July. I was asked by the family to help them basically 2-3 weeks after Seth had been murdered.
Oh, okay, because I hadn't seen you involved in that, at least in the public eye. Is there stuff out there that I missed on that?
Yeah, there should be some clips going back that far. Certainly, right about, I'm trying to remember precisely, but no, I've been with the family since July.
Oh, okay. I'll go back. Some who speculate that, and I think what a lot of the controversy forms around is that Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders fan, and that Seth Rich was disgruntled at the way in which the DNC, some would feel, unfairly treated Bernie Sanders in the primary process, and that Seth had access to the DNC's email database, and that he was indeed the person that leaked that information to WikiLeaks. What is your take on that? Is that a possibility, or is that something you feel
Zero.
has absolutely been disproven?
It's not just positively disproven, but there is zero chance that is true.
Do you have evidence that backs up that statement you just made?
Yes. What I do.
Evidence
number one, that the laptop has never left the family, that it was inspected by both the family and by the Metropolitan Police Department, that there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever that he was ever in contact with anyone at WikiLeaks or anyone associated with WikiLeaks at any point. Number two, that his job...
Hold on one second before you move on. So you're saying that the Rich family actually still has possession of Seth's computer, and that the D.C. police and the FBI never had possession of those?
And that the FBI has never been involved in this case at all.
Right, okay. I'm just clarifying. So the D.C. MPD never took possession of his personal computer?
No, the D.C. police and the family inspected the computer. The family had possession of the computer.
So the D.C. police and the Rich family sat down and inspected the computer together, but the D.C. police never actually had full possession of it to do, forensic work on the computer.
After it was determined that there was no evidence that linked Seth or his job to anything that to link him or his job to the murder in the eyes of the Washington Police Department, the family was given the computer back.
Okay, so DCMPD did have possession of the computer for some period of time, days or weeks.
Not weeks.
Days.
Okay? Perhaps days.
Okay, so what you're
saying... In that period, yes, that there was absolutely no way, definitively, that the Metropolitan Police Department did anything to that laptop.
Okay. Do you think
I am definitively knocking that down?
Well, do you think, though, I mean, it's one thing, that he didn't have, and I'll take that at its face, that he had no communication with WikiLeaks or a middleman or anything like that through his PC, but that certainly isn't the only means by which we communicate these days. Is it not a possibility, considering, Seth's access to those emails, is it not a possibility that he communicated with either a middleman or WikiLeaks themselves through other means, or through a third party?
It is not just unlikely, but is almost impossible, based on everything that we know, that he would have had any access to those things, and certainly
that he would have had access to the
Hold on.
Well,
and we know 100% that he did not have access to those emails.
So you said he did not.
A 100% certainty that he never had access to any emails from the Hillary campaign, from the DNC, and then I do apologize. I don't mean to cut this off, but I'm going to have to take the call that's coming in right now.
The truth is that I don't really get much solace in this. And it's that weird environment where on one hand a reporter is saying, we got to get the family's take on something, but then on the other hand asking for their take on something that is so harmful and hurtful and existentially rips your heart out that made it really difficult for a while just to get out of bed in the morning. We haven't been able to find a murderer, and in fact, I would suspect that a lot of the fake news that has surrounded Seth Rich's murder have actually contributed to this having gone on for so long and not being able to find the murderer. Shortly after Seth passed away, Seth's parents had reached out to some of Seth's closest friends in order to find somebody who could help them with the large amount of press interest that Seth's story had started to garner. And they were put in touch with me, and so the family brought me on to help them think through and talk to, and ultimately to make sure that things were being responded to in a quick manner on behalf of the family. There were different peaks, and actually I think that peak number one was about 1 year ago today, or 1 year ago this weekend, where there were veiled allegations made by Julian Assange that Seth Rich had something to do with WikiLeaks, which is patently false. And it was about a year ago right now that took place. And what had become, a couple of days of me putting in a little bit of time to respond and make sure that press was getting back to quickly enough, ended up becoming a much more long-term relationship that me and the family have had at this point, in which, I've kind of helped them guard Seth Rich's legacy from people who have attempted to use it for political purposes. The family hasn't been able to grieve the way that other families have been allowed to grieve. They haven't been able to strike a new normal. They've been terrorized by phone calls that come in every single day, wondering if maybe this is going to be the time that the cops are going to call and say that they found someone, but in reality they just get another phone call from another reporter asking them to disprove something that is ultimately disprovable because it's fake and manipulated and lacking in fact.
The acting spokesperson for the family of the late DNC staffer and suspected WikiLeaks source, Seth Rich, is a man named Brad Bauman, who happens to be directly connected to Media Matters founder and George Soros-backed propagandist David Brock. This recent discovery comes at a time when the interest in the Seth Rich case has reached a peak. Just earlier today, independent investigators discovered that Bauman runs a foundation in his name, Disobedient Media Reports. It is called the Bauman Foundation, and on the board of directors sits David Brock, a self-loving narcissist egomaniac who has made a career of attacking people on both sides of the aisles, but since 1997 has aligned himself with the Clintons, Soros, and the ravenous liberal left. He is the founder of Media Matters for America, Correct the Record, and Share Blue. Brock is known for his use of censorship and online harassment. Brock's organizations have been active in harassing and attacking journalists looking into the Seth Rich stories. Affiliates of Brock have taken to Change.org to attack companies advertising with Fox 5 DC. The boycott campaign is organized by Carl Fritsch, a former senior fellow at a propaganda group, Media Matters for America, who spent his time at the organization helping develop long-term strategy to target Fox News as a political actor. Media Matters has also targeted Fox News anchor Sean Hannity for discussing the case. David Brock's personal involvement with Brad Bauman only serves to intensify speculation about political interference in attempts to uncover answers concerning the death of Seth Rich. Disobedient Media has previously noted an October 2016 tweet from WikiLeaks, which revealed that Bauman is a crisis public relations consultant working with the Pastorum Group. A media release from the Pastorum Group reveals that Bauman previously worked for the DNC and the Service Employees International Union, or the SEIU. The SEIU is a client of a group founded by Democratic operative Robert Creamer. In 2016, Creamer was implicated in footage obtained by journalist James O'Keefe, which revealed that Creamer was engaging in voter fraud and violent disruption of political events, sometimes using his connections to unions who were as clients of his. Legal representatives sending cease and desist letters on behalf of the Rich family also have ties to the law firm at the center of the Whitewater controversy. Brad Bauman has in the past insisted that anyone who continued to push the story either had a transparent political agenda or were a sociopath. But given the intense attacks in which the organizations tied to David Brock have engaged in against any journalist discussing the Rich case, Brock's connection to Bauman intensifies questions about whether or not the DNC has become involved in the Seth Rich case out of ulterior motives.
All right, the uproar over Russia continues now. John Podesta, the latest, to call for an intelligence briefing before an electoral college vote, and that's only a week away, that vote. Ambassador John Bolton, on the last hour, saying that there's really no proof it's the Russians who are interfering at all.
It's entirely possible that it is a false flag operation, that somebody planted evidence, in effect.
But who would plant it?
Well, another country, China, Iran, North Korea, for reasons of their own.
But that you are saying at face value that a country there's potentially hacked into our election.
Yeah, I think, and believe me, I think Russia is entirely capable of doing it.
So you have no doubt, John Bolton has no doubt that our election system was hacked by somebody.
Well, I don't see any evidence to the contrary.
All right. So for Bolton, the only issue is who was behind it. So conservative commentator Aaron McBride, Democratic strategist Brad Bowman. Brad, obviously, this is John Podesta's way of saying get this resolved one way or the other, or start the investigation before the Electoral College electors meet, and that is a week from today. Is that doable?
Yes, it's doable, and honestly, it may be the most consequential thing that we could potentially do right now. There is a good possibility that if Russia or another state actor interfered in our elections, that this was the greatest attack on our democracy since 9/11. We need to get to the bottom of exactly what happened here, and we need to make sure that the American people know exactly what took place.
And Brad, you would be of that view if the election were reversed, if it were Hillary Clinton who won and there were talk that you would be.
Absolutely. This transcends party. This is about.
All right. Well, I guess the reason why I'm mentioning that is Aaron McBride, if Podesta's in such a rush to get this done before the electors meet, what he seems to be implying here is that I want you to weigh this, electors, when you go to decide who becomes the next occupant of the White House. Otherwise, he wouldn't say do it before the electors meet.
Right, and I think that the timing there is suspect. I think the timing has been suspect with all of this because a new New York Times report suggests that all of this intelligence existed before Election Day. And if that's the case, why wasn't it discussed prior to Election Day, particularly if now the thinking is that it changed the outcome of the election? We are hearing from a number of lawmakers who say they don't necessarily want to suggest that the outcome should be changed. In fact, Angus King, who is an independent senator from Maine, of course he does caucus with the Democrats, said we're not looking to change the outcome of the election. We just want to get to the bottom of this to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Hoping that you can get this meeting or first session done before the electors meet, you are trying to do that, aren't you?
Right, but I don't think that's the case with all liberals and all Democrats.
No, I understand that. That's right. Why, Brad, that part kind of gets my attention because, well, if you're saying this is apolitical, if you're saying this has nothing to do with altering the outcome back to the outcome that maybe you would like, Democrats would like in general,
that's right.
Why is there such a rush? Brad, on that first.
Aaron, your point is well taken, and guess what? This was actually something that Democrats were talking about. We have been talking about the fact that Russia definitely and clearly hacked into the DNC's emails. I was screaming this from the rafters for weeks, saying that somebody needs to investigate this. A lot of other Democrats were. This has nothing to do with party.
Do you think it altered the outcome, Brad?
I don't know. That's what we need to figure out. We need to know whether or not this affected the outcome of the election, and we need to know right now.
Aaron, do you think this altered the outcome? Do you think this altered the outcome? I mean, even John Bolton with me was saying he would not be surprised with the Russians, certainly in other countries, but someone was messing with our electoral process.
So I think it is important to get to the bottom of whether the electoral system was interfered with. I think that is the point. I think when you throw in the outcome of the election and put that into question, that's when all the conspiracy theory charges arise, and we probably should stay away from that. Look, Ohio was won by Donald Trump by about 10 points. So I don't know if you could say that the election that was tipped that much.
But there were a lot of closer states, right? There were a lot of closer. So you just to be clear, I wish I had more time, but Brad, do you think that anything would come to light that would show the results were the exact opposite of what turned out to be the case?
I don't know. I can't answer that question, but timing is not the issue here. The issue here is that it is clear that the American people were duped by international actors, and right now, more than anything else, we need to get to the bottom of that. If you're saying
the American people were duped by international actors, you're calling into question the results of that election.
We may very well find that that's the case.
All right. Now, real quickly then, Eric, he is saying that there's a high possibility then that whatever we were told the Electoral College count was not right. Would you, if you got even the hints of that, advocate for pushing back the time when electors meet?
I think it's very, very suspicious that
I understand. So you would push for that?
I think that we may be in uncharted territory here, and that may be something to call for.
Aaron, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the transition is well underway. the Clinton team is not suggesting this, other than Podesta, I realize, but it's not like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are coming back and saying, push this back, we really want to look into this because the outcome should be changed.
All right. Well,
that undermines our entire electoral system, and we shouldn't do that. We have to uphold the credibility of our election system.
Yeah, and we also have to uphold the credibility of our administration, which is currently being stacked by Kremlin loyalists, incling a guy who got a medal that is
now you're kind of tipping your hand here, Brad. All right.
Well, no. This is okay. Well,
no. All right. Well, that's another show and another argument. But guys, I want to thank you both.
Even if Seth Rich leaked DNC emails to WikiLeaks, of which there's no proof, by the way, the rest of the conspiracy theory still doesn't really make sense. Here's Brad Bauman, a spokesman for the Rich family.
His job was not in any way, shape, or form related to IT. He never would have had access to emails that the DNC had. He never would have had access to the DCCC, who was also hacked at the same time. He would have never had information or access to John Podesta's emails. That's just not what he did for a living.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, well, check your six. Look in that garbage can, because you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.